Hi everybody, it's Karen and I'm here today working with Echo Park's beautiful Times and Seasons collection to work on a project that's supposed to help me with one of my New Year's resolutions this year. I'm not sure about your family, but in our family we have all sorts of electronic devices that need charging. And inevitably, the cords are everywhere. Most of the time we can't find them, and when we do find them, they're tangled up and it's a mess. So I decided this year I wanted to get a little more organized and create a bit of a charging station for all of these little gadgets. So what I did was I picked up just this little simple wooden box that happens to be large enough to hold a power bar inside. It's just got a lid on the top like this. And then what I've done is I've gone ahead and determined that we need 6 spots in our house for charging devices, and I've drilled holes just here in the top of the box. Then I added 2 little strips of wood so that I could actually flip over the lid and actually put it on top of the box like this. And the reason for that is simply so that if I put my devices on top, they won't fall off the edges like that. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to make it beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about what you're going to need for this project. Of course, you're going to need your beautiful paper, and then you're going to need your box. And then the easiest way to do this is to go ahead and do all of your measurements first. Don't forget to do all these kind of edges and lips on the lid of your box as well. I've gone and written my measurements right here onto the wood so that when I'm doing my cutting, I can just kind of do all of the cutting of the strips all at once and not have to worry about going back and measuring each piece and kind of going back and forth. Remember, you don't need to decorate the inside of your box because that's just where your power bar is going to go and the lid's going to be covering that up anyways. But you do need to do the outside edges of the bottom part of your box. So just go ahead and then cut out your strips of paper. You might also want to add a little bit of distress ink just onto the edges of the paper just to give it more of an antique-y feel. This paper already has a really nice antique quality to it, so it's kind of an optional step. And then you're also going to need some Mod Podge or some decoupage adhesive. You can also use watered down white glue, and then just something to apply it. A paintbrush or a foam brush will work. Okay, so let's get started. I've got the base part of my unit here, and this just happens to be what I've decided to start with. So I'm just going to take my adhesive and I'm just going to apply a little bit here into the lid. And that's just so that I have easy access to it as I'm working through applying all of my paper strips. So I'm just going to double check my measurement here. I have been in a position before where I've just kind of gone ahead and placed things down and not done the double check, and then I've had to peel things off. So it's a good idea just to double check, make sure you've got the right piece and that you did cut it to the right length. Just take your adhesive and just kind of in even strokes, just apply a thin layer to the spot that you want to apply your paper. This is really easy. You don't want to put too much of the adhesive down because it'll make your paper bubble up a little bit, but you want to make sure that you do evenly coat the entire surface. This wood seems to be absorbing a little bit of the adhesive as I put it on, so I'll just put a little bit of extra on there. Now I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to line this up with the bottom edge of my box and on the sides there, just making sure that I get it down kind of straight and evenly as we go along here. What's great about this is the adhesive won't dry so quickly that you can't move things around if you need to. So you do have a little bit of wiggle room here. Just take it and really press it down firmly and do this just for, a minute or so just while the adhesive is taking hold here. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of my box the same way. Okay, so I've gone ahead, you can see I've covered all of the edges of my lid as well, so I've done the base of my box, and I've also covered the lid with the same technique I just showed you, but I just want to show you just a little bit of a trick just to doing this top piece here. Instead of gluing your piece of paper down and trying to cut these holes from the back, what I'm going to do is I've just taken my piece of paper and I've just placed it down on top, and I'm just taking a pencil here and just drawing circles where I've drilled these holes. What this is going to do is it's going to allow me just to remove this piece of paper in a moment and just use my X-Acto knife to freehand cut these circles. It's just going to give us a little bit of a nicer finish around the edges here, and it's also going to be a lot easier to work with. So we'll just finish drawing these in here, just like that. Okay, so now I can take this out and I can do that freehand cut with my X-Acto knife. Once you're finished that, then all you're going to do is just take some of your adhesive again, just like you did with the rest of your project, and just apply it on and just paste it down. I'm also going to put a layer on top, and that's just going to be to protect my surface since I'm going to be placing things on it. Okay, so I want to share with you one last little technique I used on this project. I wanted to use these little flags from the lovely Notables paper to mark the different spots on my charging station, but I wanted to add a little bit of shine to them. So all I did was take these itty bitty Unity stamps that were designed to match the Echo Park Times and Seasons collection, and simply just take some clear embossing powder and some embossing ink and just kind of add a little bit of a punch to each one of these. Now they're not exactly the same size, but I kind of like the shadow effect that it creates by not completely matching up. So I'm just going to take some of my ink here. I'm just going to apply it on there and then just going to match up the number. So this happens to be the little number 2 stamp. So I'm just going to line it up and we'll just kind of press down here just like that. And then we'll lift it off and just take my embossing powder. So again, this is just some clear embossing powder, and we'll just cover it up. I'll just dump that extra back in there and just flick off any extra. So you can kind of see there that there's a little bit of edge around the flag that doesn't have any embossing powder on it. Love that look. And now I'm just going to take my heat gun and I'm just going to apply some heat to my embossing powder just to melt it. You can kind of see it starting to melt there. The richness of this paper really shines through with the embossing powder over top of it, and I love the colors, they just really pop. So we'll just hold it up there and hopefully you can kind of see the effect with the camera there that we've created with that. So there you have it, a vintage and yet still very modern charging station that you can use in your home. I hope you've enjoyed this little project today and are inspired to do some decoupaging with the Times and Seasons collection from Echo Park. You won't be sorry. It's a really fun and beautiful collection to work with.